What's up, YouTube? Murphy Firearms Training here. So I get a lot of questions about buckshot with the Load All 2. A lot of folks have watched my video about loading with the Load All 2. They want to know how to load. Can you load buckshot? How to load buckshot. So first thing you got to do, you got to get a recipe for buckshot. Okay, most of your buckshot's going to be double-aught buck. Okay, so this is Hornady double-aught buck. So I've got this buckshot load that uses this particular wad. And it is a 9-pellet recipe. And remember, you can always reduce your payload, okay? It's just like loading pistols and rifles. A lighter bullet is not going to cause overpressure, okay? So less shot is not going to cause overpressure. But so this is a 9-pellet recipe. And what I want to show you is there's two ways you can load buckshot. So I've got my powder charge set up here. I'm going to just zoom in here. You'll notice my powder is set up. I've got my powder bushing in here, okay? There's no shot. This is dead empty, okay? Dead empty. The reason being is buckshot won't feed through the shot bushings. So if I want to load buckshot, I'm going to put my shell in here just like normal. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to drop my powder charge. And I'm going to go ahead and just push this back over, okay? So I dropped my powder charge, and then I went back to the left. I'm not dropping any shot because I can't, okay? Now, I'm going to put my wad in. Okay, so here's my wad. Put that in and seat my wad just like I'm loading any other shot shell. Okay, so my wad is seated. I'm going to pull this out. You're done. That's all you can do. Okay, now with that wad in there, okay, with the walls of that wad, and I'm going to show you outside the shell, you can't stack 3 pellets. Let me show you how these things stack. Okay, if I drop pellets in there, so I'm going to drop a pellet in there for you. They like to stack like that, okay? They like to stack too wide. So if you're doing an 8-pellet load, you'll leave these petals on. Oops, dropped a buckshot there. Okay, you'll leave it on, and you'll see the second layer stacks this way, okay? So angle my camera down so you can see better, okay? So you'll see the first layer stacked that way, second layer stacks this way, third layer is going to stack that way, okay? And they sell a thing called a brush wad, okay? And I'll get into that for a second. But if you're using anything with a cup, double-aught buck is going to stack like that. And, of course, the fourth stack is going to be outside of the shot cup. So let me do this inside of the shell now, okay? So inside of the shell. So I've got this shell, and we're going to drop in 2. You'll see that they line up like that. Drop 2 more, and you'll see they'll line up perpendicular to that. Okay, so boom, boom. Okay, perpendicular. Drop 2 more. Okay, perpendicular again. So you'll see it keeps, they'll go that way, that way, that. Okay, so 8-pellet buck, you're going to use a shot cup with petals. Okay, and voila, if it'll stay put. You've got 8 pellets in there. You've hand dropped those. And then I always roll crimp. I always roll crimp my buckshot, okay? So I'm going to put an overshot card, right? Can be cardboard. I've got some plastic ones. I'll put an overshot card in here, and then I'll roll crimp that. And I've got a video on roll crimping. That one's ready to roll crimp. And I'll literally just push everything back, and I'll make a row of like 10 or 12, and then I'll roll crimp them. Or sometimes I'll make enough rows for 25, okay? Now, what if you want to do 9 pellets? I've got this recipe for 9 pellet, and I only loaded 8. No big deal. And you can find recipes for 8 pellet as well. What if I want to use this same wad for 9 pellet, okay? 9 pellets won't stack in here. So what you have to do is take a utility knife. So I've just got my utility knife here. I'm going to cut the petals apart, okay, all the way down to the base. So we're going to cut all the way down to the base on every one of these petals, okay? So just like that. And then I like to fold mine out so I can see what I'm doing better, okay? I'm going to take this utility knife, and I'm going to cut this petal off, okay? Just cut it off. I want to cut it off flush with the bottom of that cup, okay? So I'm going to come in here with the utility knife, and once you get the first one, it's really easy. The first one's kind of a pain. So we're going to cut these petals off flush with the bottom of the cup. Okay, here we go. One more. Okay. Voila. And you have created what's called a brush wad. And they sell these, but you can make your own. Okay. As a matter of fact, this particular wad is almost identical in geometry and height to a brush wad that a company sells. And I'm pretty sure that they make it using a pretty similar mold. Okay. So you take your empty shell here. Now watch what happens. We'll take this, we'll run this down, we'll run right, drop our powder. Normally that would drop your shot. You're dropping nothing, so you flip that back, come up, you look in there, there's your powder charge. Okay, so your powder charge is in there. And you can seat your brush wad using the machine. You can seat your brush wad using your finger. It doesn't matter. I'll just push that in with my finger for the purposes of this video. But normally you'd seat your brush wad using your machine. Okay, so now we've got that brush wad in there. There's no petals. Let me get this bag where I can get a hold of these. Now, the thickness of that shot cup, amazingly enough, is enough that when you take it away, they stack like that. So you get 3 balls level on a level playing field. And you can see this because it's a clear hull. You can see it from the side as well. Hopefully it's some glare from the camera, but they're all level there, okay? And when you drop the next 3, they're going to create another little triangle, okay? So you're going to create another little triangle, boom, 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 okay? So you're going to create another little triangle. And when you drop your last 3, they're going to create a third triangle. And so what happens is these guys actually stack in a triangle. So boom, 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 okay? And so I've got 3 layers of 3 pellets, whereas here I've actually got 4 layers of 2 pellets. And so this is actually a little shorter, but it has a heavier payload, okay? So it's going to require more roll crimp. You may even require a couple of extra overshot cards up here to get a good roll crimp, okay? 2 very different loads. Pattern them, see how they shoot, okay? This one is going to kick harder because it's got a heavier payload with the same powder charge, okay? And this is for demonstration purposes. I have shot this powder charge with 8 and 9 pellets. It is a 9 pellet load, okay? And so by going 8 pellets, one of the things you do is you reduce the payload. It actually lowers the pressure. Make sure you test it. Don't load this and say, oh, it was a 9 pellet load. I'll load an 8 pellet load. It'll be safe. It'll work. It'll be fine. I'll go deer hunting the next day. You got to test these. The other thing is these will pattern very differently. Okay. It's really funny how different chokes and different guns, some guns really like 8 pellet loads. Some guns like 9 pellet loads. Some guns shoot both. Okay. I shoot a Remington 870. I've had it for over 20 years. And for buckshot, it likes 9 pellet loads. They pattern very nicely. This is a great load for that gun. I've shot some 8 pellet loads and they pattern pretty good, but it's actually a little wider pattern than the 9 pellet, which is crazy because I'm getting an extra pellet here. So there's a lot going on there. But anyway, so a lot of folks have asked about using the Lee Load All 2 to load double aught buck. Okay, so there's your double aught buck. There's your Lee Load All 2. And the problem is that if you're loading primed hulls, new primed hulls, these are new primed hulls, you don't use the first 2 stations. You only use this station for the powder charge, and then you're not going to star crimp it. You're going to roll crimp it, okay? There are a few buckshot loads out there that use star crimps, but most of them use roll crimps, okay? So, you know, really, if you measure the powder out on a scale, you don't need this machine at all to load buckshot. You could actually load it by hand. Now, if you are using once fired hulls and you are star crimping, well, then obviously you can deprime, reprime, powder charge, and recrimp, and the only thing you're not using is the shot charge. So, you know, if you are going with a recipe like that, you do use most of the stations. But if you're using new, never fired hulls that are already primed, if you just measure the powder charge on a scale, you don't need a machine at all. You can actually make buckshot by hand. And I actually got into reloading shot shells by reloading buckshot. Literally, I used lead dippers. Okay, so if you've ever seen the lead dippers, I'm looking on my bench to see if I can find one real quick to show you. But they're yellow scoops. There they are. These yellow scoops, these lead dippers. Okay, I got into reloading by actually figuring out, okay, I need this size dipper, and I would wipe it off, pour it into the scale, and I needed, 20 grains, and it would come up, 19.8, and then I would trickle it up to 20, or I'd say, okay, 19.8 is close enough, I'll leave it like that, and I would scoop, and so I'd put powder in, 10 of these, then I'd just push the wad in with my fingers, and then I'd drop the pellets in, and then I roll crimped them, and I didn't have a machine at all. And that's kind of what kind of got me into, because buckshot is so high, and I found that I could reload it for cheap and practice for home defense scenarios. I could use it for hunting. I can use it just for fun. So anyway, so I wanted to kind of show you guys that. I've gotten that question a lot, and I thought it might help someone. So if you have questions, leave them in the comments, and I hope it helps, and appreciate the support. Like and subscribe.